Broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
All right. Hi, everyone. This is Brandy DeLange, Legislative and Policy Advocate with the Colorado Municipal League. I want to thank everyone for joining our webinar today. Those of you that are elected officials and have registered for this webinar will receive 1 Muni training credit. And don't forget, today's webinar is being recorded, so both the recording and the PowerPoint will be posted on the website, and we will also share it with today's attendees. For those of you who are not familiar with the webinar format, you'll see the control panel at the top right of your screen. You will have an orange arrow to the left of the panel, which will minimize the entire box. All the participants in our webinar will be muted, but we do encourage you to ask questions by typing them into the question box on the control panel. And also, don't forget, we will hold our Q&A session towards the end of the webinar, but do feel free to type in your questions as we go along through the presentation. With that, I want to go ahead and start introducing our presenters. We have 2 presenters joining us today, Delynn Southern, a technical specialist with the Colorado Energy Office, and Tom Jennings, the Colorado Account Executive and Project Principal with Midstate Energy, presenting on behalf of the Energy Service Coalition. Delynn is a sustainability professional with the experience providing program design, project management, and government relations and policy support for energy efficiency and renewable energy projects. And after 10 years based in New York City, she recently moved to Colorado and works for the governor's office implementing the energy performance contracting programs for the state agencies, public jurisdictions, higher education, and other political subdivisions. She holds professional certifications in LEED, Certified Energy Manager, and Energy Modeling. And then Tom brings over 28 years of experience in energy services for multiple markets, including building automation systems, solar, geothermal, renewables, security, energy optimization programs, LEED buildings, and performance contracting. He's worked with academic institutions, cities, and private developments across the United States. Tom leads Midstate Energy's Colorado Development Program and supports the audit and design team's dynamic with change management programs required for successful implementation of climate action plans, energy performance contracting, renewable energy solutions, and design, build, energy ROI projects. It's a lot, so you guys know we're in good hands. So at this time, I'm going to hand it over to Delynn.
All right. First, I'd like to thank CML for having us here today to discuss energy performance contracting with you. As Brandy mentioned, my name is Delynn. I'm the Program Technical Specialist for the Colorado Energy Office's Energy Performance Contracting Program. At CEO, our mission is to deliver cost-effective energy services and encourage innovative energy solutions for all Coloradans. To achieve this mission, our office is split into 4 programmatic units to provide programs and services to specific customer classes. The first one you'll see is low income and residential energy services. This program is focused on reducing household energy burdens and mitigating the impacts of energy poverty. They deal with conservation codes and policy. Some of their specific programs include weatherization, as well as rooftop and community solar projects. Next, we have the Commercial and Industrial Energy Services Unit. Here they provide resources and technical assistance for projects that encourage energy and water efficiency. Programs address energy in the agricultural sector, K through 12 and higher ed, as well as public jurisdictions. Next, and kind of a hot topic lately, is the Transportation Fuels and Technology Unit. Their purpose is to advance the use of alternative fuel vehicles. The programs include charging stations, municipal fleet conversions, as well as alternative tax credits. Lastly, we have the Public Affairs Division. This is the government and policy side of things. So as you'll notice, under the commercial and industrial energy services arrow, you'll see energy performance contracting. That's my program, and it's offered by the Colorado Energy Office as a way for public jurisdictions to make infrastructure upgrades that address aging facilities and are in line with community climate action plans. Okay, for over 20 years, we have implemented the EPC program as a public and private partnership. The public sector includes cities, counties, schools, special districts, state agencies, as well as institutions of higher ed. Our private sphere are our ESCOs, financial firms who are involved during the development phases and are paramount in developing viable projects. Lastly, at the state level, we have the Colorado Energy Office. We offer contract support, document review, along with engineering and technical guidance throughout the life cycle of the process. As mentioned, EPC is a valuable contracting and financing tool. It follows a 5-step process, which is supported by the Energy Office at each phase. So this bottom and first step is our introductory phase. Here's where clients will work with our office or an ESCO to determine interest in pursuing a facility improvement project. If feasible, we ask you to sign a memorandum of understanding, which allows CEO to allocate our staff time and assist you in creating an energy project. The second step is actually where we prepare for an energy service company to begin evaluating your needs through an investment grade audit. Depending on your procurement guidelines, this selection process could come in the form of an RFP or simply a sole source where going out to bid is not required. The Energy Office offers support with drafting an RFP, and we offer templates for scoring proposals as well as sample interview questions. It's important to note that the RFP responses are based on qualifications and merit rather than price. The price presented for an investment grade audit is standardized and based on square footage as well as distance from our office. We find this evens out the playing field and allows for a quality audit instead of a bang for your buck kind of approach. Next step. After an ESCO is selected, the client may choose to enter into an investment grade audit contract with their selected firm. They'll work with you to identify any goals and proceed with a physical site assessment. The result is a detailed report highlighting upgrade opportunities, savings potential, and various funding sources. Through this site assessment, a savings guarantee is established, which is then used to leverage competitive low-interest financing, usually through a tax-exempt lease purchase. Again, just to reiterate, the identified savings are used to repay the debt service over the term of the project. It's kind of an important factor in the EPC project. So after you've entered into these contracts, you actually start the performance of the project. So when the client agrees to move forward with the recommended improvements, the ESCO and the client will both enter what we call an energy performance contract. Like the name says, this is where the ESCO will begin performing the upgrades. The EPC will be finalized and financing will be secured at this level. The construction phase begins and typically lasts anywhere from 1 to 2 years, depending on scope. Lastly, we enter the final step, which is measurement and verification. Once the project is completed, the measurement and verification phase begins. We refer to this as M&V. M&V can be seen as like a checks and balances system where the firm presents performance data on the installed project. This shows the client that what they agreed to is actually producing what the ESCO said it would produce. Our statute does require the ESCOs to perform a minimum of 3 years of M&V. If in this period the system does not produce as it said it would, the ESCO is actually on the hook for any shortfalls. So this guarantee is really the hallmark of the EPC program. The client would not be responsible for any measures that were not producing the savings. The state is involved throughout each step of the EPC projects. We support public entities in their efforts to implement facility improvements where access to capital is limited and staff do not have the time or expertise to oversee energy projects. So we do this through a few things. The first is we offer standardized documents and best in practice guidance. So the Colorado Energy Office worked extensively with the state architect, attorney general, and other lawyers to develop documents and protocols that best serve our communities as well as our ESCOs. This creates an atmosphere of transparency and fairness between our office, the ESCOs, and our clients. Secondly, we do have a team of 12 firms who have gone through a rigorous vetting process and have been contracted with the state. They have the engineering capacity and organizational strength needed for successful EPC projects. They'll offer you a streamlined turnkey project approach, resulting in quicker process and increased customer satisfaction. Additionally, the Colorado Energy Office will provide technical and engineering support throughout the process of the EPC contract. Unlike the other EPC programs across the country, our EPC program doesn't assess a fee for our support, so it's free of charge. It's kind of nice to think that you have a dedicated engineer on staff. You really don't have to pay for that. Bonus. Lastly, our program has access to a robust and active financing community in Colorado. They compete to make sure the EPC projects receive the best returns on their investment. Typically, financing rates are under 3%. So you might be wondering why the Colorado Energy Office cares about water. Well, our statute enables us to address any needs that reduce dollars spent on utility budgets. This includes water, energy, renewables, etc. You might also be wondering, when is it a good time to consider an energy performance project? Let's consider a municipality who has high-cost water utility bills. They work with an EPC program and one of our qualified ESCOs to identify utility savings and specifically water conservation improvements. The result in implementing the recommended upgrades is lower water consumption, which equates to lower utility bills. Some of these measures can include indoor fixture replacements, so think sinks, shower heads, toilet replacements. Some of the largest water savings that we do see are related to cooling tower retrofits, landscape irrigation, as well as turf changeouts. Our program also covers your standard energy efficiency upgrades and improvements. So your lighting upgrades, maybe changing from fluorescents to LEDs, boiler replacements, occupancy sensors, as well as building automation systems. So where does funding come from to implement these changes? Well, we have a chart. As mentioned, EPC leverages annual utility cost savings to fund the upgrade and replacement of equipment that directly contributes to annual costs. The dollars associated with these savings are redirected from operational budgets and then used to repay the lease purchase financing over the term of the agreement. This first column shows your existing operating expenditure. The top portion is where there's a savings opportunity. Now we move to the next column. An ESCO is contracted, evaluates the facility, and then identifies opportunities for cost reduction. Again, this is through equipment upgrades and associated operational and maintenance savings. These savings are guaranteed, and this is what is used to attract financing. In addition to financing, clients are encouraged to use other funding mechanisms such as grants, bonds, and capital contributions. So after a project has been identified, you enter that third column. This column highlights how the cost savings are used to cover the debt obligation for the project over the finance term. We see this as a great tool for public entities with budget constraints, as they can limit some of the upfront cost. Additionally, the guaranteed savings serve as the payment vehicle. Finally, the last column. After the contract term, the entity will benefit from reduced operational budgets and captures the savings throughout the life of the equipment. Okay, scenario 2. Consider a municipality with either old or non-existent water meters who wants to track usage and capitalize on district water use. Bringing infrastructure up to date is often a cash-intensive process. We have a solution. A recent statute change now allows for utility revenue generating projects, i.e. water meters, to be considered as part of an EPC. We already have a few municipalities in the state that are exploring this as a way to either install water meters or fix their aging water meters. Using the EPC program, the municipalities can leverage the added revenue to access low interest financing. Additionally, the municipality creates a revenue stream for future years. So the financing approach similarly follows what it would for just doing a water conservation measure. For example, the first column shows your existing water use. That top portion is the unbilled water, or what we refer to as lost revenue. A qualified ESCO identifies metering improvements, and they show apparent savings or accuracy improvements associated with the upgrade. Then you move into the third column. The improved access is guaranteed and used to cover the debt obligation over the finance term. And finally, that last column, after repayment, the water utility benefits from improved accuracy to billable gallons, and the ability to capture this revenue, throughout the rest of the life of those meters. So this slide is a summary of our program to date. As mentioned before, the Colorado Energy Office has had an EPC program for over 20 years. We've translated savings of 193 million kWh of electricity, 10.3 million therms of gas, propane, heating oil, and coal, and over 500 million gallons of water into 34.2 million in annual savings. That has been leveraged into well over $500 million in facility improvements. So this is a very popular approach and means as a way for public jurisdictions and entities to make necessary facility upgrades. If you have any questions, we ask that you either email CML or contact Mirka Delicava. She's our senior program manager. We'll get back to you as soon as we can. Now I'm going to turn it over to Tom Jennings, who will discuss energy performance contracting from the viewpoint of an energy services company.
Thank you, Delynn. So I'm Tom Jennings, and I'm here today for the Energy Services Coalition, which is a partnership between the CEO and a number of ESCOs and finance groups that support performance contracting in Colorado. Our mission is basically to promote the benefits of and provide education on the widespread spread use of the energy performance contracting for public and private facilities. Our membership, again, includes both the CEO as our public entities and our private entities such as architects, engineers, the ESCO community, energy services companies like myself in Colorado and nationwide. Please. As your ESCO partner, we are the private side of the 3P public-private partnerships that effectively help you design and implement the energy services that you are looking for to save the dollars, specifically around water for this conversation, but throughout all of the different energy savings that we might be able to bring. Our base is to effectively come in, identify, and help you put a project together, support getting financing from a third-party source, get the installation and project commissioning together so that we meet the CEO requirements and the requirements for our client and customers. Provide the measurement and verification of those energy savings, and even staff and help the building operators in both training and or maintenance of the different projects that we put in. These savings are all guaranteed basically through the financing. If the energy savings is not achieved that was originally developed, we as ESCOs are on the hook to make sure that we fill that gap so that your budgets are consistent. This is similar and redundant to what Delynn had put down, but this is basically how it works. The agency or owner elicits a performance contract through an ESCO, and then the ESCO supports and or develops with a financier the actual program. These financiers can be brought in by the agency owner or can be recommended by the ESCO. Regardless, they are able to give a financing for the actual project as they go over for the term of the contract. So if the energy savings is 5 to 10 years, that financing term is 5 to 10 years. If the energy savings is longer in a larger blend of energy conservation measures, then that financier will have that note for slightly longer. So what challenges do you face at your actual facility that we can actually help with? And Delynn went through a number of these different areas too. You have climate action plans, sustainability policies, conservation concerns, aging infrastructure, codes and regulations, comfort issues, deferred maintenance amongst your mechanical systems. All of these different things may be funded with bond work or capital dollars, or as a result of a performance contract, be funded through financing that is actually able to use your investment dollars for operational budget to lower and reduce a lot of the different energy spend that you have here, and then again guarantee them so that your operational budget does not actually move. And at the end of the actual note, those savings go back into your coffers themselves. So typical project selection and paybacks are on this slide for a normal EPC profile. However, these ECMs, specifically for today, we are talking about water. So we are going to go to the next slide, which shows a little bit of what Delynn had actually talked about. So some of the larger capital improvements and lower savings are those cooling tower replacements, taking a look at your water use to significantly plan out for both lowering the actual use and waste of water, but also the how you charge and go to business with some of your water meters. Some of those medium payback years from 7 to 12 include replacing those indoor fixtures, getting low flow equipment, helping with landscape conversions from turf to low water use, and installing conservation measures and programs to support your municipality throughout the different use of water that's coming through. And then finally, because of the statute change, we are able to actually not just reduce the water and waste of water, but in this case, to actually help generate revenue and capture that lost revenue that you might have from leaky water meters and or not billing correctly towards your constituency's water use. So meter replacements were added to the statute just in the past 5 years to really help us and help municipalities change out those water meters so that they can accurately get an idea of not only where a lot of the different leaks and places where water is wasted, but also to bill and to get the correct billing to your constituencies. This is an alternative approach for your improvements. Effectively, the ESCO partnership and the finance partnership are two different groups that are brought in to help you put a project together. And the ESCOs are design build firms that will take you from A to Z in the actual process. Using the format that the Colorado Energy Office has put together, we come into your building, take a look at your energy spend, survey all of the different stakeholders and survey the buildings and come up with a list of energy conservation measures and facility improvement measures that can be used in a performance contract. That list is then gone over within the 3P public-private partnership, and a project is put together that is agreed on by both the ESCO and the municipality to drive forward with a design build project and achieve the energy savings that had been calculated in the initial investment grade audit. Again, a repeat from what Delynn had out here, but effectively your maintenance cost being a large section of what you have on a day-to-day operational budget, and your energy cost being just a payout for what you're using for your energy spend. If we can come up with a project that makes sense and meets the statute requirements, we can take those energy costs down and actually use the savings that we would have even on the reduced maintenance cost to develop the project, improve your infrastructure, install those water meters, lower the use of water across your municipality, and provide energy conservation measures that make sense for what you do. The financing and funding is an important part. The ESCO themselves are not the financiers here. We facilitate the financing, but we do not profit from them. Effectively, the financing could be brought in by a financier that the municipality has, or can be recommended by the ESCO, or can be part of an approved list that the Energy Services Coalition has put together as well. And just to kind of give you a timeline of how these different things work, feasibility studies are usually done up front. These are normally pro bono, and the Energy Services Company comes out, takes a quick look at the last few years of your energy spend and of your facilities, talks to some stakeholders, and tries to figure out if there would be a project that would meet statute. Then, depending on your procurement style, the ESCO can come in through an RFP. We can use the MOU that the Colorado Energy Office provides, or we can work with your procurement office to figure out the best way that each individual municipality can move these forward. The investment grade audit is the third stage, and that is an actual in-depth, engineered, designed looking for those energy conservation measures and facility improvement measures. And that can be anything from the different energy savings that Delynn had provided, as well as the water savings, revenue generation. You can also look for outside energy renewables, and we will also look for different ways to actually get the funding that are required through either bonds, statutes, capital dollar improvements, as well as the performance contract itself. The performance contract, once it is agreed on between the ESCO and the municipality, generally takes however long the construction schedule makes sense. For K through 12 schools, it's usually done over the summer, which is a very busy time for our industry. But in municipalities, it can be done throughout the entire year, since this is generally already budgeted dollars and a finance part that comes out. The implementation can take up for as long as that construction actually runs, and then the verification by statute is 3 years and is supported by the Colorado Energy Office as well to make sure that the savings guarantee is being met by the ESCO company. Our ESC and CEO collaboration, the CEO has been a fantastic partner with the Energy Services Coalition for many years here, and effectively we have partnered in making sure that the statute is relevant to the municipalities and the different constituents that we actually serve here. And again, Mirka is the correct person to get in touch with at the Colorado Energy Office, and she can get you to either myself or one of the other 11 ESCOs that are pre-qualified. And she is the right place to start because they have a number of different fantastic tools, and like Dylan alluded to, it is a free service that your Colorado Governor's Office provides. And that is it for me, Brandy.
Great. All right. Thanks, guys. I really appreciate this. I want to see if folks have any questions at this time. Again, if you do have questions, please make sure to type them into your text box, and then we'll get them answered. We'll leave it. We'll give you guys a few minutes, maybe to think about some stuff, and then if not, I think I have a few questions for both Tom and Dylan. So, again, type in your questions if you have them. Okay, so continue to think about if you have questions, but I think I'll go ahead and ask mine at this point. So, you know, one of the questions I have is, how does Tabor affect this kind of contracting? So, obviously, this is a big thing that our folks think about as we go through our budgeting process. So, can somebody help me out with that?
Okay, I can speak to that a little bit. So I think as we kind of showed in some of the graphs, municipalities have their, I guess, existing operating budget. The way the EPC works is it will go in and actually identify savings. So essentially, to your community's eyes, your budget would be the same, and the delta from your existing budget to your new budget is what is used to repay the debt. If you think about it like that, you're not having to ask the community to appropriate additional funds for the project. You would have spent those funds regardless. This way you're just spending them, I guess, in a more efficient and beneficial way.
Yeah, to build on that, Dylan, effectively using that operational spend to improve your facilities over the course of the paying back the note makes complete sense. But the greatest part about that is once the note is paid off, those savings go directly back into your coffers. So we are using an operational spend instead of leveraging more taxes or bringing other ways to actually affect your budget. I would say that the statute requires that this be a positive cash flow So any extra dollars that we can bring from capital spend and or grants or any other things, all of your ESCOs will be looking for the ability to do that to help you support and make sure that it meets statute and is a cash flow positive situation.
Great, thank you. Okay, so I guess my next question would be, what's the average installation time frame for these water meters?
Excellent question. So it completely depends on the actual size of the project. And then most water meters are installed over the summer months when a lot of the ESCOs are busy as well. So this is going to depend on the scheduling and the amount of water meters that do need to be changed out. However, for large cities and large municipalities, usually the ESCO will bring in multiple bids and can actually meet most of the schedules that our partners and clients are looking for, depending on exactly how quickly they want it done and the availability, of course, of the actual water meters themselves.
Cool. Okay. Thank you. So what is the response from residential and commercial customers if their bill increases after installation of these water meters? Is there a response?
There's always a response. So if you're a municipality that has existing meters, it's important to know that the older meters lose their accuracy over time, and this is because they have moving parts. These new meters are electronic, and that means they're able to capture your water use more accurately. So some customers may experience a reduction in their bill, where some might notice an increase. I think the overall message here is to really relay that the customer will be billed by the water they're using, where before it could have been a flat fee. Who knows?
So I think what you're saying is that ultimately there is a cost savings for both the municipality and the consumer, right? In the long run.
In the long run, yes. And you are saving water because you can identify leaks, but you are actually billing for the water that is being used rather than the best guess of what the older water meters are there.
Sure.
However, you can't guarantee that some people are not going to have a cost increase because they might have a completely broken meter that was not reading correctly for years. What we do as an ESCO is provide programs and support so that the message is given out to the public on how these work and what is necessary and why we are actually doing it. And we usually frame it with that water savings, which is so important out here in the West.
Sure. That's really good to think about right now, especially as we're entering into the summer. Okay, so I guess my last question would be, for our folks, what is the estimated, project cost for these water metering projects?
Again, this would depend on the size of the project. There was an example in Atlanta where they did a water metering rollout, and it cost about $35 million. We do have a town in Colorado with a population under 5,000. They just received a proposal for 850 new meters installed, and that is going to be about $2.2 million. They are receiving some grants through DOLA and some special financing through CDPHE. So those are also options when considering doing a water metering project.
Great. Okay, this is last call for questions. Oh, I think I see one. Let me try to see if I can pull this up. Okay, so the question is, how does EPC interact with existing state funding programs like SRF or energy impact grants? Any changes to current processes? That's a great question.
Okay, so I just kind of touched on that in my last response. One of the great things about the EPC program is that we do blend other grant programs in with ours in terms of paying for the project. I know Colorado has quite a heavy chunk in their SRF funds specifically earmarked for water projects. This town I was just mentioning, they took advantage of some of those programs. And again, the ESCO is very skilled in identifying all of the funding sources and applying them to your project.
Perfect. Thank you. Okay, one more time. Are there any more questions? That was a really good question. Thank you for sending that in. We'll give it just a few seconds. And in the meantime, I do want to thank both Dylan and Tom for stopping by and sharing their knowledge with us today. Again, if you guys are interested, this webinar and the recording will be posted on the website. We'll also be sending it out to the attendees of the website via email. And if you guys have questions or if you think of something later on, please feel free to reach out to either me or to Dylan or Tom directly, or as we saw in our presentation, maybe Murica is your best contact. So last call, any more questions?
Brandy, just to build on what you just said, the state CEO website is excellent. It has a lot of different resources on there that you can download and get a lot of your questions asked. And then, again, give Mirica a call or an email, and she'll get back to you as quickly as possible. And she does an excellent job, up to and including going out and talking to town and city councils, as well as any stakeholders out there that might have questions.
Perfect. Thanks, guys, and thanks for everybody who tuned in today.